Yes, so we're just changing the answer index. We go to the next one. Yeah, we go back to the play quiz form design view, double click on button C and Control V to paste that and change this to 2, answer index 2. Okay, and then we add one more. Go to play quiz form, double click on D and do Control V and change this to answer index 3. Wonderful, and that's it. Okay, now this is going to be our this is going to be the the complete play quiz form. I don't think there's any other thing we'll need to add in the play quiz form, so I believe we're done with the play quiz form. We can close it, not necessarily, you could leave it open, but I just like when I'm done with the class I'll just close it so it leaves I know I'm done with it. I'm not coming back to it anymore, except if I do realize I need to change something or I need to add something. So I'm done with the play quiz class. Now the add questions form, this is where the fun is all about. Now remember, we added all these items, all these components, all these controls on the add questions form. Now we need to link every single thing. It's probably a good idea to start a separate session for it, but since this session has just begun, I'll just go ahead and continue with it. So the first thing is, let's select this question text box and we're going to set the name. Remember, when we created them we did not change the name, so we're going to change this. We're going to call it question we already have a question text box. Okay, enter, that's the name. And option A, we're going to call this the name to be option A text box. Notice how I wrote it is capital A, capital T, capital B. Okay, and press enter. Option B is going to be option B text box, enter. Option C, it will be option C text box. I'm just taking the time to name all these controls, because once we start writing code it will be much easier for us if we're calling reasonable names that make sense. Option D text box, press enter. And then the answer combo box, we're going to call it answer combo box, press enter. This is the add button, we're going to call it add button, enter. This is the available questions list box, so we're going to that's going to be too long, let's just call it questions list box. So there's a difference between the question text box and the questions list box. So press enter, and this is going to be the remove button. Now I'm not going to set the name for this back to main menu, because remember we already tempered with it, so we don't want to change the name since we've already we've already created the event handler for it. So always keep that in mind when you have already created the event handler for a button. It's always a good idea not to change its name, because if you change its name you have to go back to I think the program class to change some things. Actually, not the program class, I think, is it the program design view? I'm not sure. I've forgotten where you have to go, but keep in mind you just don't want to change the name of the name of a button or control when you've already created an event handler for it. So yeah, we'll finish naming them. The next thing we want to do is we want to set what happens, event handlers for these, for add, remove, for add and remove. I think that's it. That is just these two event handlers we want to add. We want to set, so when the user clicks on add, it should take whatever the user typed in the questions, in the question text box, put it, create a question object for it, put it in there, take the option A, whatever the user wrote there, put it in the question, take B, put it in the question object, take C, take D, like that, take answer index, whatever is selected, put it in the question object, and then add it to this available questions list box. Okay, so it's not going to be much work for us. So let's double click on add question, and it creates the add button click event handler. And in here, what we want to do is, like I said, we're going to create a new question. So we're going to say question q is equal to new question, and now we're going to start passing our parameters. So the first parameter is the question, which we're going to get from question text box dot text. Okay, then the second, I think it would be a good idea to be spacing them, so let's do it this way. I'll put each parameter on a different line. So this is going to be the question, and then the next parameter we want, let's check what's the next parameter. The next parameter is the answer. Sorry, no, not the answer. Next parameter is option A, string A. So we're going to, string A is going to be option A text box dot text. Then the third parameter is B, so option B. So you see my idea of why we went through the trouble of naming each control. It makes things easy for you when you start writing code. And this is going to be option D text box dot text. And the fourth, oh sorry, I think I missed C. This is option C, and this is going to be option D, and option D text box dot text. And finally, the last, the answer index, answer index. Beautiful. And then don't forget to put your semicolon after, oh sorry, it's supposed to be answer index. Let's check that. It's going to be answer combo box dot selected. I think there's something like selected index. Yeah, there is. So answer combo box dot selected index. Beautiful. And that is it for the add button. Well, not really. We've just created the question, which is stored inside Q. Now we need to add Q to the array list. So program dot questions dot add, and then we pass Q. So it's going to store the question. It's going to add the question to our question array list, and then finally we need to display it on the list box. So we're going to create a method for that. The method is going to be called load question in load questions in list box. It's going to be a method. So this method is underlined in red because we haven't created the method yet. So we're going to create it here. Private void load questions in list box, and in here what we want to do is we just want to list all the questions. So for each question, sorry, no need for that. What we just want to do is we want to take the questions. We don't want okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to set, remember there's a property called items. All right, there's a property called items in the list box that allows us to enter strings. So okay, let's go ahead with our for each loop. I think for each would do. For each, so question qs in program dot questions program dot questions qs sorry, what's the name? I think it's questions list box we called it. Yes, questions list box dot items, here it is. Yep, dot add. Okay, and we're going to add qs dot, remember it's not just the question you're going to pass, it's the question itself. That's the string of the question. So qs dot the question and then semicolon. Okay, I think that is all for the add questions, for the load questions in list box. Okay, then finally there's one more thing we need to do. So let's go back to just to see the UI. Okay, the last thing we need to do is we need to handle remove question. Okay, so double click on that, remove button, click. Okay, this is the event handler. So when the user clicks on remove button, we want to remove the selected question in the questions list box. So what we want to do is we want to do something like questions remove button, click questions list box. Okay, actually let's not do it directly. What we should do is we should remove the question from the questions stored in our program, and then when we remove it, then we reload. All right, by calling load questions in list box, it will reload the questions in the list box. So because that one has been removed, it will disappear from the list. Okay, and in that way we have synced both the questions in our program and the questions that are appearing in the list box. Okay, that's a good idea. Let's go ahead and do that. So first we need to know the index. Int index to remove. Index to remove is equal to list box question list box dot selected index. Okay, and then we're going to say program dot questions dot remove at, and then index to remove. Okay, wonderful. And then finally, when we remove it, we reload the questions in the list box. So we're just going to call load questions in list box, and amazing, that's all. Believe it or not, our program is complete. We need to test now to make sure everything works fine. So click on play. we start with, before we can play the quiz, we need to add questions. Okay, so let's add some questions. So let's say who is your tutor? Okay, so option A is some crazy some crazy man. Option B would be Mustapha. Option C would be, say, Abdul, and option D would be John. And the answer is going to be B, so we're going to select B as the answer, and then we're going to choose add questions. We have an unhandled exception, so I'll just go through. I'm going to pause it to try and figure out what's going on. Okay, so I think I know what the problem is. It's probably because in our questions list box.items we did not create the array, we did not initialize it. So what we need to do is, first we need to initialize the items in the questions list box. So before everything, we need to say questions list box dot items is equal to new list of string. Okay, and number your brackets. Okay, so property or index, what's it saying? List box add questions form cannot be assigned to, it is read only. Okay, I see. So it is read only, which means I'm not sure. Let me pause this again and try and see if I can figure it out. Sorry about that.